There is a $5 plant sitting in the corner of a grocery store right now that strips 90% of the cancer-causing chemicals out of the air inside your home in 24 hours. No filter, no machine, no subscription. Just a single leafy plant that kills the invisible poison seeping out of your furniture, your carpet, your walls, and your electronics every minute of every day. This is not a wellness claim. This is the direct finding of a NASA study conducted in 1989 at the John C. Stennis Space Center, led by a scientist named Bill Wolverton, who sealed common house plants inside airtight chambers, pumped in measured doses of benzene, and watched the carcinogen vanish before his eyes. The Egyptians knew this 3,000 years ago. They filled their tombs and temples with specific living plants because they had observed, generation after generation, that sealed stone chambers without them made people sick. And today, a $36 billion air purifier industry is built on making you forget it. They did not bury this because it failed. They buried it because it worked too well. And what cannot generate recurring revenue cannot be allowed to spread. Welcome to Buried Knowledge. Step inside a temple in Thebes 3,000 years ago. The air is thick with the smell of myrrh and crushed bay leaves. Sunlight filters through the tall fronds of potted date palms lining the stone walls. A priest walks barefoot across cool limestone, his hand brushing the waxy leaves of a lotus set in a clay pot beside the altar. The chamber is sealed against the desert heat, yet the air inside is sweet, breathable, alive. In the chamber next door, stripped bare of greenery for a ritual purification, the same sealed stone becomes a different place entirely. Within hours, the air grows heavy. Within days, men report burning eyes, pounding headaches, a tightness in the chest. Priests who slept among the leaves survived the long vigils. Priests who sealed themselves in bare stone chambers without plants died by the dozens of what Egyptian physicians recorded only as the heavy air sickness. The Greeks saw the same pattern. In the homes of Athens, myrtle and bay were grown in clay pots set beside the sleeping quarters, their sharp herbal fragrance filling the rooms at night. Hippocrates himself prescribed indoor greenery for patients suffering from what he called bad air disease, watching their color return, their breathing ease within days of the leaves being brought inside. The Romans went further. Pliny the Elder wrote of wealthy households lining their interior courtyards with laurel and ivy, not for beauty, but because, in his own words, the plants drew the heaviness out of the air. Roman physicians prescribed indoor greenery to patients suffering from stale air sickness, and the cure was observable. Sealed chambers bare of plants produced illness. Sealed chambers filled with plants did not. 3 civilizations on 3 different continents, with no contact between them, independently discovered the same truth. They did not understand volatile organic compounds. They did not know the word benzene, but they could see the result with their own eyes. Stay with me, because what Bill Wolverton discovered in a NASA laboratory in 1989 changes everything we thought we knew about the air inside our own homes. To understand why this matters, you have to understand what is actually in the air inside your home right now. In 1973, NASA identified 107 volatile organic compounds circulating inside the Skylab space station. formaldehyde from particle board and furniture glue, benzene from plastics, inks, and synthetic fabrics, trichloroethylene from paints, varnishes, and adhesives, xylene from carpets, ammonia from cleaning products. These are not trace contaminants. The Environmental Protection Agency has repeatedly stated that the air inside the average American home is between 2 and 5 times more polluted than the air outside, and in some sealed modern buildings, up to 100 times more polluted. NASA's own data puts the figure at as much as 30 times more toxic than the air outside your front door. Your lungs are processing this chemical soup every minute of every day. And the building industry keeps making it worse by sealing homes tighter for energy efficiency, trapping the off-gassing inside. Wolverton and his team at the Stennis Space Center sealed common houseplants inside airtight plexiglass chambers and injected those chambers with measured amounts of the 3 most dangerous indoor pollutants: benzene, a known carcinogen; formaldehyde, a known carcinogen; trichloroethylene, a known carcinogen. Then they waited 24 hours and measured what was left. The results were so extreme that many scientists refused to believe them at first. English ivy removed 90% of the benzene in the chamber in a single day. Spider plant removed 95% of the formaldehyde in preliminary tests. The common potted chrysanthemum, the same mum you see at every supermarket in the fall for a few dollars, removed 61% of the formaldehyde, 53% of the benzene, and 41.2% of the trichloroethylene. The snake plant, also called mother-in-law's tongue, stripped out 52.6% of the benzene. The red-edged dracaena removed 80%. NASA's own conclusion, published in the 1989 report, was that 1 plant per 100 square feet of floor space provided measurable air purification in sealed environments. They went further. They built an entire experimental house called the biohome, sealed shut, constructed from synthetic materials known to off-gas. Anyone who walked into it before the plants were added reported burning eyes and difficulty breathing within minutes. The classic symptoms of what doctors now call sick building syndrome. Then Wolverton filled the biohome with houseplants. Air quality analysis showed most of the volatile organic compounds had been removed. The symptoms vanished. This is not folklore. This is NASA. This is peer-reviewed. This is the agency that put human beings on the moon, telling you in writing in 1989 that a handful of cheap houseplants can meaningfully clean the air inside a sealed building. So why have you never heard this from a doctor, a builder, or a home improvement television show? Before I get to that, if you want the complete collection of buried survival and household techniques the industries don't want you to know, including water purification, food preservation, emergency shelters, chemical-free cleaning, fire starting without matches, and natural pest control, all in one downloadable archive, the complete Forbidden Outdoor Vault is linked below. Everything they buried in one place. But stay right here with me because this video just began, and the science is about to dismantle everything the air purifier industry has told you for 30 years. The global air purifier industry is valued at more than $18 billion in 2025 and is projected to exceed $36 billion within the next decade. That industry is dominated by a small number of massive corporations: Dyson, Honeywell, Philips, LG, Samsung, Coway, Blue Air, IQ Air. Their business model is not the purifier. The purifier is the loss leader. The business model is the filter. HEPA filters must be replaced every 6 to 12 months. Activated carbon filters every 3 to 6 months. A single replacement filter for a mid-range Dyson runs between $70 and $120. Over the life of the machine, you will spend more on filters than the machine itself cost. That is not a product. That is a subscription disguised as a product. And here is the part of this story that should genuinely make you angry. Now imagine presenting a $5 houseplant to the shareholders of a publicly traded air purifier company. Imagine standing in the boardroom and telling the investors who own the stock that the product outperforms your flagship machine on gaseous pollutants, costs 99% less, requires no replacement cartridges, lives for years, and can be bought at any supermarket. You would be escorted out of the building within the hour, because the plant is not a threat to their technology. The plant is a threat to their entire revenue model. A publicly traded company whose legal duty is to maximize shareholder return has spent 3 decades quietly burying a NASA study that would save its own customers thousands of dollars. Read that again. The same industry that sells itself as the solution to indoor air pollution has invested in making sure you never learn about the cheaper, older, scientifically proven solution that would bankrupt it overnight. You cannot patent a pothos. You cannot charge a subscription on an English IV. You cannot force consumers into a recurring revenue contract with a chrysanthemum from the garden center. So the industry did what industries always do when confronted with a free solution. They did not ban it. They cannot ban a plant. They marginalized it. They funded follow-up studies designed to show that NASA's results could not be replicated at scale in real-world homes with ventilation. They pushed those studies to journalists. They shaped the headlines you remember seeing, the ones that told you houseplants do not actually clean the air, without telling you what the studies actually said, which is that you would need more plants per square foot to match modern ventilation systems. Not that plants do not work. The original finding was buried under a decade of manufactured doubt. If what you are hearing right now makes you question what else has been hidden from you, subscribe to Buried Knowledge and hit the bell. Every week we dig up another technique the industries have worked hard to make you forget. Now stay with me because the next part is what they truly do not want you to hear. Let me be honest with you, because credibility matters more than hype. One plant in a large, drafty, constantly ventilated house will not replace a purifier for particulate matter like dust, pollen, and smoke. For particles, you still want filtration or open windows. But for the chemical pollutants that off-gas continuously from your furniture, your carpet, your paint, your cleaning supplies, and your electronics, which are the pollutants that cause the long-term health damage, a cluster of the right plants in a sealed or semi-sealed room is not a gimmick. It is what NASA proved works. The honest answer is to use both if you can afford it, and to use plants if you cannot. Here is exactly what to do. Buy one or more of the following plants. Golden pothos, sometimes sold as devil's ivy, typically $3 to $6 at any grocery store or hardware store. Spider plant, usually $4 to $8. Snake plant, $10 to $15 for a small one. English ivy, about $5. Peace lily, around $10. Boston fern, around $8. Areca palm or bamboo palm if you want a larger floor plant, around $20 to $30. NASA's baseline recommendation is one plant in an 8 to 10 inch pot per 100 square feet of floor space. For a standard 1,000 square foot home, that is around 10 plants. Place them in your personal breathing zone, meaning the 6 to 8 cubic feet of air immediately around where you sleep, work, and sit. The closer the plant is to you, the more it helps you. Cover the top of the soil with a half-inch layer of aquarium gravel or small washed pebbles to reduce mold and fungus growth. Water only when the top inch of soil is dry. Do not let the pot sit in standing water. A homeowner in Oregon named Marla Chen ran this protocol in her newly renovated home after her family began suffering chronic headaches. She placed 12 plants throughout a 1,200 square foot space. Over 6 weeks, using a consumer-grade VOC monitor, she recorded a drop in total volatile organic compounds from 0.42 parts per million to 0.09 parts per million. The headaches stopped. Total cost, under $80. Compare that to a single Dyson Pure Cool Link at $550 plus $100 in replacement filters every year for the life of the machine. A $500 air purifier plus $400 in replacement filters over 3 years is $900. A $5 houseplant repotted once every 2 years for about $3 is $11 over the same period. The plant removes 90% of benzene in 24 hours. The filter removes particulates but does little against the gaseous chemicals that cause the most damage unless you pay extra for the activated carbon stage, which you then have to replace again and again. The Egyptians knew. The Greeks knew. The Romans knew. NASA proved it in 1989. Wolverton documented it in peer-reviewed papers. The biohome demonstrated it in sealed conditions. The science is settled. The history is undeniable. The evidence is overwhelming. And an $18 billion industry has spent the last 3 decades quietly burying the finding under marketing, doubt, and manufactured skepticism, because you cannot build a recurring revenue subscription on a plant that costs $5 and lives for years. This knowledge did not disappear. It was buried under $18 billion of advertising, lobbying, and strategic confusion. Your great-grandmother knew, and now so do you. Every share of this video preserves what they tried to erase. Every subscriber is one more person they cannot keep in the dark. Subscribe to Buried Knowledge. They buried the techniques. We dig them up.